It was a fantastic experience for us to judge, hear all your thoughts. Some amazing ideas were presented. Execution was phenomenal. Most of you put a lot of thought into how you thought about the problem, how you would go solving it, and showing us a phenomenal demo at the end of it as well. So when we saw working code, working software, it made us very, very happy. I think we both shared the same experience in terms of how you presented it. Of course, we understand you are still students, which means there are a lot of improvements, and we would be actually happy from a faculty perspective as well as from as an industry guy. I would be very willing to kind of help you, mentor you if you want to go ahead with these thoughts. We had a lot of criteria in terms of how we chose to kind of judge this competition. We looked at 3 areas. We looked at the idea itself, what idea you were picking up, what was the applicability of it in the real world, and the execution of it, which is what models you had used, how the models worked, was the output coming correctly, how you presented it, and then finally we also gave as much importance to how you presented it to us. So what presentation you had, how you were talking to us, the answering of our questions, your thoughts, all of that was taken into account when we scored our numbers, and we basically had a very similar grading in terms of how we scored the results. Based on this, I would go whom we thought was a runner-up in this whole model. It was the Bangalore Revengers team who built a chatbot buddy for the educational portal. They had basically taken the college's data basically and implemented a chatbot which basically gave them the scoring. It had voice recognition involved into it. You can speak into it, and it basically produce the output as speech. And the applicability to this university was so apt. So that basically scored us the second highest marks in our opinion. We basically had similar marks. So they come up as the runner-ups for this competition. But the winning team basically goes to somebody who had a much higher value proposition for not only for this program, but for the entire humanity. This is the Nexus Innovators team, the second years, who basically went and created a waste classification engine. So they basically looked at how they could reduce pollution, how they could reduce waste management, and they had not just done one product, but 2 products. You could basically provide an image for an unused product in your house, and then it produced an output of an image that showed what you could do with this product. And then they looked at our efficient routing. So I could basically say, I told them I want to go from Bangalore to Chennai. Then they actually implemented a map that showed the route for this. Then calculated the scores for traveling by a diesel car, traveling by a petrol car, going on a bus, going on a train, and then compared how you could do it. And the applicability of that is even very high in industry. So from an idea perspective and the execution of that perspective, we think they deserve to be called the winners. Given these 2 conditions, there are a few honorary mentions. So I'll have sirs first talk about the honorary mentions, and then I also have a few mentions from my side.
Sure. Thank you very much. And the first team which comes to my mind for the honorary mention is Mata Amrita Coding Society. We have implemented a video game popularity done by a group of first year students. They have implemented quite a good number of models for doing the prediction using a whole lot of user data, and that was something which was very impressive for people who are just starting out. The second honorary mention comes to me is by Code Mantra, which is again a group of first year students. They basically have said that taking user input in terms of what is their current level of education and the set of skills which they carry versus their interest to go forward. They basically analyze all these inputs and come up with the best set of courses which can be used by the person for enhancing the skill. And I was really impressed when I kind of started giving them some inputs and they didn't know whether the model is going to work or not. For example, I said that I am interested in carpentry, currently I have a 12th grade, and I want a half an hour course for enhancing my skill, and it came back with 2 or 3 courses and recommended this is what you can use. That was pretty impressive for me. One more honorary mention for me is coming from a 3rd year group, Celestial Body Identifier, which actually, if I look at it currently, there are some programs which are run by ISRO and NASA jointly, where they basically train a whole lot of students on how to identify celestial bodies, and the work which was done by this group of students was amazing. With that, I'll request.
So I had honorary mentions of 3 teams. 2 teams with a very similar product and model. They had actually, in all of these things, the other criteria they had chosen was around health and health related stuff. The 2 teams, Null Void and Stack Mashers, both of them had looked at mental health companions. So had pretty much similar idea, which is basically taking input from people and based on their emotions, provide them with guidance and support on that. Actually, the Stack Mashers had a much better scoring in terms of their input because they just not only gave the scoring based on textual input, but also incorporated smile recognition, voice recognition, and everything else. And they predicted ages for the people who were talking into it. So the amount of work that was gone into that have a better result in terms of how the output came out from there. The other team that actually has a good scoring was the Echo from the second year students who actually have implemented their own model, which was on random regression for injury prediction for sportsmen, which is a very close subject to my heart, having run a sports startup for 3 years. And they had actually talked a lot about how the thing that impressed me about their team was not only did they actually do a score prediction, they actually calibrated their own model and looked at how their model scoring is. So they could basically predict that their model has a 82% accuracy on it. So which is like not only finding the results for what you find, but also testing your own models is something that people should start looking at, and that impressed me about these teams. So those 3 teams get already mentioned from my side.